The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 706. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. Well, hello friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap-Chan, and today I have an amazing lady on the show today. She's a television producer, a host, a speaker, a spokesperson, a podcaster, and was also Mrs. DC America 2015. And I'm just really excited to have her on and share her story with us today on self-confidence. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Elaine Espinola. Elaine, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Sure. Hello, Sheena. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for inviting me on your show. And thank you for that beautiful introduction. I actually just taped an episode of my television show today. It's called Capital Connect. And it's basically about connecting the community through conversations about topics that concern us all. And so they're usually just different social causes. And I interview various different experts from different types of industries and nonprofits. And I love that. And as you mentioned, the podcast, I also host a podcast for BBB National Programs, umbrella under the Better Business Bureau here in the States. And it's called the Bistro. And I love doing that. But first and foremost, I am a wife and a mother. And having been Mrs. DC America 2015 was a beautiful, wonderful honor. And I like to say I will always forever have that title of 2015 Mrs. DC America. So all fun things. And again, I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And Elaine, what's your cultural background?
So I'm half Filipino and half Irish. I suppose it would be racially ambiguous, if you will, but I've gotten a lot of, are you Spanish? Are you Hawaiian? Or are you this? Are you that? But so yeah, half Filipino.
Thanks for sharing that. And Elaine, what would be your favorite self-confidence quote?
So I love quotes. I love quotes. And there's so many great ones. But one, because I'm all about the empowerment for women and girl power, I love this quote, which is, a girl should be two things, who and what she wants. Basically just meaning she doesn't have to be anything except for whatever it is she pleases. And so that's one of my favorite confidence quotes, because it just reminds us all that the power is within ourselves. And that brings a lot of confidence too.
Thanks for sharing that great quote. And in your own words, how do you define self-confidence?
I would say that self-confidence to me is the ability to trust in yourself, to love yourself, to rely on yourself, and then also, I think, have the strength to use all of those things to lift others up along the way. I think that plenty of people maybe like themselves, but maybe they don't trust themselves, right? Or maybe some people feel secure in their abilities, but they don't like or love who they are. And so I kind of feel like being self-confident is being very self-aware and kind of a combination of all of those things.
Thanks for sharing that great definition. And Elaine, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
I think with anyone who is discovering self-confidence, and aren't we all constantly growing, right? So I wouldn't say like I have arrived, but for sure I feel very self-confident at the moment. And I would say probably, as a child or when I was younger and maybe not as confident or in my ability to trust myself on all things, right? I think experience has brought that to this level. But I would say I was probably just more reserved. I was less outspoken. That would probably be one of the biggest differences about what was different in my life before I kind of came to a point where I feel pretty confident in who I am and what my goal in life is, really.
Thanks for sharing that. And I think that's something we all go through, right? Just not having enough trust in ourselves, kind of not making any noise, especially being brought up as an Asian child or an Asian daughter, or we've always been taught to just kind of stay quiet and, just do as you're told.
Right. And also when you're not quite confident, that's another reason why you're going to be quiet about it. You're not sure of what you're saying or what you're doing or what you're feeling, and you certainly don't want to share that so much, So I think that would be natural for people to be a little bit more reserved when they're not quite confident in what they're saying or doing or how they're feeling.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if nobody ever told us to make any noise or speak our voice, then, we would just be more quiet to begin with because we were brought up that way, right? Or maybe you were brought up that way. So yeah, I totally agree. And, what was that point in your life when you realized you were more than enough to go out there and, be the woman that you are today, have that voice, have that confidence? What was that aha moment?
Probably a series of different moments. One in particular, I would say 3-month moment, if you will. But when I was in college, Sheena, I studied abroad on an experiential learning program called Semester at Sea. So it was a study abroad program I did it my junior year in college. And as opposed to being in a particular country for that 3-month period of time or that semester of time, I was on a ship that literally sailed around the globe. We left in the Bahamas and we, after 3 months and 100 days, arrived back in Seattle, Washington. And so we stopped at 9 different ports of call along the way. And that was absolutely enlightening in every way, paradigm shifting for me. And I would say my aha moment or my aha months, if you will. But just seeing the world in a different place. And then also when I did that program, there were 1,000 other kids on that ship, but I didn't know them all. This was a brand new experience for me. And I very much felt like I was doing this thing on my own. I was traveling around the world on my own. I wasn't with my parents. I was, an adult and, just really having to rely on myself out in the world. That gave me just a lot of confidence in myself, especially after doing it and then reflecting upon it. So it's a wonderful experience. Couldn't recommend it enough to more people.
Awesome. I think that's great. Especially traveling on your own and exploring the world through your eyes, right? And meeting so many people and cultures, and you just realize like the world is so big, and sometimes we've been kind of like boxed in this little world, not realizing like there's a whole world out there that we can explore and realize like our abilities and see that we can be confident and strong no matter what happens, no matter what roadblocks we have or whatever life throws at us, right? And because of that, what's your life been like now?
Honestly, that was just so eye-opening and incredible and amazing. And I just felt so extremely alive when I was traveling. And so I guess what my life would be like afterward is just this feeling of immense gratitude and empowerment. I just feel extremely confident about myself, knowing that, you could pick me up and place me literally anywhere on this globe and I will be fine. I will be fine. I will make friends. I'll get a job. I will survive. I will thrive. I will be just fine. And that gives me a lot of confidence because I just kind of feel like there's nothing I can't do when I trust and rely on myself and my instincts. It taught me to be a more street smart individual, a more compassionate individual, a more understanding person, a more curious and adventurous person. And all of those things fills one up with a sense of, accomplishment and confidence in myself, not confidence like ego, but just self-reliance. And I'm confident in that. And so, it really just makes me feel really empowered to take on other things. And it doesn't have to do with traveling or anything like that, but just any challenge, I feel like been there, done that, I can do that. If I think of things that I did when I traveled, went to Mount Everest, I think I can handle this thing. And that I always go back to that. And it just, fills me up with the feeling of, just empowerment, really.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I love how you mentioned, if you can conquer Mount Everest, anything's possible, right? Because we can transfer that confidence to other parts of our lives, right? Like if we can accomplish one thing, we can accomplish it in different areas. So I really love what you mentioned. And, to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in her own journey to self-confidence. What would be that one tip you'd give to her?
Trust yourself. Trust your instincts. Follow your passions as you're still on a journey of self-discovery and self-confidence. As I said, we all continue to be on that journey. I'm on that journey, but I want other women, as much as I tell myself and remind myself, to trust yourself along the way. Your instincts rarely lead you down the wrong path. And when you're following your passions, you also can't go wrong. And don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't be or do exactly whatever you want. And it's okay to change your mind too. You just don't owe anybody but yourself the world. And as long as you trust in yourself, you'll accomplish that. You'll make it happen.
Thanks for sharing those great tips. And it's also a great reminder for me because, as women and especially as human beings, we tend to question ourselves all the time. So we just have to learn to trust the process, trust in ourselves, and like you mentioned, trust our instincts, right? So thanks for sharing those great tips. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do or check out some of your work, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. I definitely am connected on social media. You can find me on LinkedIn, Elaine Espinola Celts, and that's my married name. And then I'm also on Instagram at Mrs. DC America 2015. You can find me on Facebook. Just Google my name, Elaine Espinola. And then if you want to check out the podcast, it's The Bistro on iTunes. And then the television show is called Capital Connect. I'm sure you can just Google it and different sources of ways to get to that show will be listed. But I love to connect with anyone. So thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Elaine, you can also head on over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for Elaine's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I really just want to thank Elaine today for taking the time to share her story and tips with us on self-confidence. So thank you so much, Elaine.
Thank you, Sheena. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. It was really great having you on the show. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of the Tao of Self-Confidence. Get your free self-talk tape for building self-confidence by visiting our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.